He had asked me to come and argue the matter in Ranchi High Court, but before that occasion could arise in court, Stan was picked up by the NIA and taken to Bombay, where he died in Taloja, in the hospital while being incarcerated in Taloja jail. So we have a Jesuit priest who sought the release of Adivasis from prison, suffered a custodial death due to false implication and criminal negligence by the state. Sai just reminded us to remember not just the icons of the human rights movement, but many others who are incarcerated, as Father Stan was drawing our attention to the same. I did conduct a study, it's published, in Chhattisgarh, and I visited the Jagdalpur Central Jail and the Dantewada District Jail. At that time, some names that you would be familiar with, Soni Sodi, Kawasi Hidme, Lingaraj Kodopi, were all in the Jagdalpur Central Jail. Two findings that I think were noteworthy of the study were that in South Chhattisgarh, 3 graphs can be overlaid that show a simultaneous and similar trajectory. The number of memorandum of understandings endorsed for extraction and acquisition, the number of CAPF, the Central Armed Police Force, and other security forces posted in the area, and the Adivasi under trial population in prisons. All 3 soared dramatically between 2000 and 2014. So this continuity is important to remember, and not just the Modi era. The tribal committee, which was constituted almost at the end of the 2014 UPA rule, found that a large number of tribals were languishing in jail for long years. When asked, and I had this conversation with many over there, that what are you charged with? The reply would be Naxal offenses. Of course, there is no such offense in any penal code, the old or the new. The phrase Naxal offense is invoked to tag the accused as requiring exceptional treatment within the legal system. This tag allows the police to detain and arrest a large number of local Adivasis. It focuses on the menacing nature of the crime rather than evidence, resulting in greater leeway given to prosecution agencies and thus inordinate delays in trials and lengthy periods of incarceration and little or no accountability. A few days ago, Sunita Pottam, an activist, Adivasi leader in Chhattisgarh, was arrested. Sunita Pottam has filed a public interest litigation which is pending before the Supreme Court of India. It has not had any effective hearing since August 2018. Sunita Pottam and Munni are the petitioners. They have challenged 6 extrajudicial killings in Chhattisgarh. Now Sunita has been arrested and is implicated in over 12 FIRs, many of which have provisions under the UAPA. I draw your attention to this to indicate that the politics of incarceration is not a new phenomenon. In fact, the colonial continuity of the state policy and practice are striking. The law continues to vest in the state and its instrumentalities the power and authority to repress, silence, intimidate, control, and imprison. To weaponize the law to incarcerate is not a practice peculiar to the present Modi regime. And Sai Baba is a testament to that. Regardless of regime change, again something that Sai drew our attention to, law has long been deployed to place behind bars persons from vulnerable, marginalized, and oppressed groups, persons belonging to the DNT, the denotified communities, whose very identity, lives, and livelihood are still stamped by the historical stain of criminality, are found in large numbers. And when we hear the video interviews, Sudha Bharadwaj refers to the Pardhis in Baikula jail. Power going rogue is not news. It is in the DNA of power to abuse, misuse, and exploit. The more critical question to examine is the institutions that are entrusted in our constitutional scheme with the responsibility of creating checks and balances and holding executive power to account? The answer lies in a close and constant scrutiny of the role of these institutions, and here I would imagine that the law and courts would be critical. By upholding the constitutionality of draconian laws, including AFSPA, TADA, POTA, provisions of PMLA and the UAPA, and making jail and not bail the norm, the constitutional courts, including the Supreme Court of India, has legitimized, sanctioned, allowed, enabled, and upheld the incarceration of those who dissent, defy, disagree, and dare to dream of a different society. In this incarceration project, I would argue that law is a steadfast accomplice of the state. Professor Shoma Sen, known to many of us here, after 6 years, arrested in June 2018, after 6 years was granted bail by the Supreme Court, where the court said actually the material that the state is providing does not add up to evidence. At which juncture, the state very casually submits that in any case they no longer require her custody. Even otherwise, the admissibility in law and authenticity in fact of these so-called unsigned, undated letters allegedly recovered from some devices which form the fulcrum of the Bhima Koregaon case has been seriously contested and legally challenged. Whether it is the Bhima Koregaon case of 2018, the Delhi riots 2020, and now NewsClick 2023, the conspiracy theories spun by the investigating agency, whether Special Cell or NIA, grow like a hydra-headed monster, with each charge sheet simply noting at the end that investigation is ongoing. The court is yet to comment on the brazen abuse of the power of further investigation. The incarceration project that the state is pursuing relentlessly, emboldened by the court, aims to mutate the rights-bearing citizen to a subject and transform the argumentative Indian to a mute spectator. Kavita spoke about fear. Fear is real, it is palpable and almost tangible, and it surreptitiously enters our mind and hearts through stray thoughts sometimes. I recall the morning of 3rd October 2023, when the phone rang for many of us very early. It was said earlier that, it is that there seem to be too many lawyers in this, lining up to give the Neelabh Memorial lecture. I actually believe that more people today have a lawyer on their speed dial rather than a doctor. And that is what is happening in our country. Early morning of 3rd October, when phones rang and at least 40 journalists and activists had the police knocking on their door, many of whom, mentioned even in the FIR, had nothing whatsoever to do with the NewsClick portal, which was being targeted, was to spread the tentacles far and wide. And yes, the chilling effect, at least temporarily, caused many to retreat and be silent. Again, as mentioned and known to all of you, the Delhi Lieutenant Governor has given sanction to a 14-year-old matter for a meeting held in Delhi in 2010. The case was actually not under the UAPA. The reason why UAPA has been brought in is because sections 153A and B, under which the case was and is, there is a period of limitation in law. And that period of limitation has expired. The UAPA provisions, of course, are more draconian, more stringent, and more vague and open-ended to bring in anybody, but also allows the state to jump the hoop of the law of limitation. And therefore, Dr. Sheikh Shaukat Hussain and Arundhati Roy are now, we are told, to be prosecuted for some political positions, statements, remarks made. But it did cause me to pause and wonder whether it is the state which is terrified, fearful and paranoid. The state seems to fear our ideas, our passion, our integrity, our commitment and our convictions. It is always instructive to look to the north, Kashmir, and to the northeast. Incarceration is a mode of governance. The Matia transit camp in Gwalpada, Assam, built at a cost of rupees 46.51 crores to hold declared foreigners. Presently, after the implementation of the NRC in Assam, is the largest detention center in the country and presently holds 17 declared foreigners. On 14th May 2024, the Supreme Court said that these 17 declared foreigners have been there for more than, out of which 4 have spent more than 2 years. There was an earlier ruling in 2019 that if somebody has been incarcerated for 3 years, you have to let them go. The Guwahati High Court reduced that to 2 years during the period of COVID. Supreme Court on 14th May 24 said, well, there are at least 4 which have spent more than 2 years, so you have to now deport them. So what is the plan? Do you have a treaty? Let us assume that they are Bangladeshis, which is what the state is saying. They are contesting it still. That if these are people who have to be deported, there is actually a very long, formal, legal, bureaucratic process between the two countries. And I would watch this space very carefully to see what really transpires and what is the end game of these detention centers. Another aspect mentioned by Sai again, and an experience that we've heard from friends, that when being admitted into the prison, particularly when you're at the Deori or the small gate through which you enter, I'm talking only about the jails that I have seen, what is taken away is not just your freedom and personal liberty, but all semblance of human dignity. But what you do carry with you is your caste, your religious denomination, the marker of your community. That prejudice and discrimination pierces through the high walls of prison effortlessly. Journalist Sukanya Shanta, who some of you would have read in The Wire, who has written a report called From Segregation to Labor, Manu's caste law governs the Indian prison system, then went ahead and filed a writ petition in December 2020 in the Supreme Court, which is ongoing. And the court has now taken cognizance of the fact that in the arrangement of the barracks, in the division of manual labor, and in the jail manual itself, for instance, habitual offenders, which DNT persons are then classified as, there is prejudice and remnants of the caste system. I will now, as was mentioned earlier, play some video interviews. The reason for doing it in this manner, one of the reasons amongst many to incarcerate human rights activists, lawyers, other human rights defenders is to remove them, remove their voice, remove their work, remove their presence from our midst. It is important for us to hear their voice, to bring them back as a political act into this space, which they deservedly, we need to hear them and they need to be heard. So I, in a very rudimentary way, sitting in my own office using Zoom, etc., no technical skills I can claim, had brief conversations with Fahad Shah from Kashmir, who is the editor of Kashmir Wala, a media portal. Javed Muhammad Pump from Allahabad, who was arrested and whose wife's house was destroyed with the bulldozer. Anand Teltumbre, accused in the Bhima Koregaon case. Arun Ferreira, a lawyer, accused in the Bhima Koregaon case. And Sudha Bharadwaj, a lawyer, trade unionist, accused in the Bhima Koregaon case. This is a very arbitrary, illustrative set of people. This is not representative, and I make no such claim. The reason I was able to reach out to these people is because I have either represented them in court or given them legal advice, and therefore there are many, many others, I'm sure, who need to be heard, but I could only engage with so many in the brief time that I had. So what I'm going to do is play those interviews. They've been edited, of course, and to hear them and to hear from them about the incarceration. Most of them will, some of them may, but most of them will not talk about their cases for obvious reasons. The cases are ongoing, but they will talk about many other issues. We heard from Sai also. You put a human rights activist anywhere, they will observe what is happening. हम किसी और बार शायद व्यंजन की बात करेंगे, मगर जेल के व्यंजन की बात आज जरूर सुनेंगे. Health, legal aid, what happens in women's prison, discrimination, custodial violence. Why were they arrested? Some of them wanted to speak about it, others, the cases are ongoing. So I'm going to just play some of those, and Sai has said that wherever he wishes to add, he will add those. We may stop the interviews in between and say a few words. So this is very informal, and as I said, I'm not making any claim to any technical skills, but I'm also taking advantage of the fact that most of the people present here would like to engage with this process. So a little bit of indulgence in that will be required if there's some glitch here or there. जो lights वाले हैं वो lights अगर यहाँ की बंद कर देंगे. So that is Fahad Shah, who's a young Kashmiri journalist, editor of media portal Kashmir Wala, and he will tell us about his cases and why, when he was arrested in 2022, then secured bail, shifted to PS Pulwama, then to Shopian, again granted bail, then arrested again. So of course there is a revolving door where you don't come out, and each time the court grants bail, the arrest is made simultaneously. Then under the Public Safety Act, and finally, when they thought that may not stand legal scrutiny, under UAPA, the case which is still going on, and he was transferred to Jammu, and now we will hear. He was granted bail from the High Court on 17th November 2023. Can we play that, please?
UAPA and arrested on 4 Feb 2022. And my arrest was like in a series of arrests. Like, as you know, that I got a bail in first case after 2 weeks, and I was booked in the fourth case, in the second case, and I got bail in 1 week. Then I was booked in another case, and I was getting bail, and then I was slapped with the Public Safety Act detention. I was sent to jail under that detention, and while I was in prison in North Kashmir for over 2 months, 2 months later, I was booked in another case in Jammu, and then I was shifted to Jammu JIC Center first, and then after 3 weeks I was sent to the Jammu jail, Central Jail in Jammu, Court Bulwar Jail, where I spent 1.5 years. And it was very, very challenging. It was very hard to be in a prison in Jammu. Usually, I don't spend much time in Jammu because it's really hot there. The weather is really bad. But now I had to spend time there, and it was in prison. And the prison conditions are not really that, reformative or whatever can be. It is not a correctional center. It is really like a prison. So while being there, it was difficult. There was a lot of high times, low times, depressing times. There were a lot of times when one would break down alone. There were a lot of times when one would get stung from other people who were incarcerated there, and because those people were the friends, family, colleagues, everything to you while you are there. And I think, overall, like if I would say why this was done or what was happening is basically that post 2019, there was a particular narrative that was to be highlighted. There was a certain line that had to be taken by the media because the government did not want anything that would, in a way, as the government says, incite people or is any voice of dissent would come out. And the situation is such that it is not just the dissent of, like the political or the contrary. Now it has become everything. You can't now even say that the government is not working on health, the government administration is failing fixing the roads or is failing fixing the bridges or the water or electricity. Even those things can attract penal action against you in certain kind of ways, and that has happened. And I think that is the reason that eventually what was done to us, what was done to me in terms of arresting me and then eventually blocking the website that I was running and blocking its social media handles also, which currently also remain blocked, is that it was set as an example that, if you do this, this is what is going to happen to you. This is the example that is being set, that this is what you are going to face. And I think there's like a selective freedom of speech. It is like one way of freedom of speech, that there are certain kind of things that you can say, but there are other kind of things that you can't say. Even if you feel, even if there are people saying something and you want to report that, you can't report that because it will be immediately considered anti-national, or it will be considered terror or something like that. It will be considered that you are inciting people.
देखिए, हम इसमें ये समझते हैं कि ये जो दौर हिंदुस्तान में चल रहा है वो एक सांप्रदायिकता वाला दौर चल रहा है, और इस दौर में कुछ लोग, गवर्नमेंट्स के लोग इस तरह से काम करना चाहते हैं कि एक वर्ग को खुश करने के लिए दूसरे वर्ग को उस पर जुल्म ज्यादती करके दिखाकर ये बताना चाहते हैं हिंदुस्तान में हम ही हैं जो एक बड़े वर्ग के साथ खड़े हो सकते हैं और उनके लिए कुछ कर सकते हैं। तो ये एक एनिमिटी वाली पॉलिटिक्स चल रही है जिसके तहत हमको फंसाया गया, और उसके बाद उसी दिन रात में 11 बजे हमारी वाइफ को, हमारी बेटी को महिला थाने से पुलिस आई, लेकर चली गई। अब आप सोचिए कि इंसिडेंट में आप हमको ऑलरेडी रोक चुके हैं, डिटेन कर रहे हैं, और फिर हमारी बेटी और वाइफ को ले जाने की क्या जरूरत थी। फिर आगे देखा बयान बीजेपी का लिखा था कि कॉन्स्पिरेटर्स के साथ उसके घर को डिमोलिश किया जाएगा। तो हमें बड़ी हैरानी हुई कि हमको कॉन्स्पिरेटर बना दिया उन्होंने, और हम तो कोई क्रिमिनल एक्टिविटी में कभी नहीं रहे, कभी हमारा कोई मुकदमा उसके पहले आज तक हुआ नहीं। 57 ईयर्स ओल्ड हो गए हम, और आज तक हमने कोई मुकदमा नहीं आया। हमारा मकान कैसे टूट जाएगा। तो हमको लगा कि ये अखबार में बयान आ गया है, लेकिन होगा नहीं ऐसा। फिर हमने 11 बजे वहाँ, आजकल हर जेलों में न्यूज देखने की टीवी होती है, टीवी किसी ने स्टार्ट किया, देखा हमने वहां पर कि साहब मकान डिमोलिशिंग कार्रवाई शुरू कर दिया उन्होंने वहां पर। फिर हमें 2-3 दिन के बाद जब हमारे घर के लोग हमसे मिलने आए इसी तरह से, तो हमको मालूम हुआ कि हमारी वाइफ को, हमारी बेटी को भी 36 घंटा डिटेन किया उन्होंने, इलीगल हैरेस्ट किया वहां पर, और उनको सुबह 9 बजे थाने से छोड़ा और ये कहकर छोड़ा घर नहीं जाना है। के बाद उनका दिल नहीं भरा, उन्होंने 5 केसेस में हमको जेल भेजा था, और इसमें 20-20, 22-22, 23-23 धाराएं लगाई थी। और फिर 9 दिन हमको इलाहाबाद में रखने के बाद उन्होंने भेज दिया देवरिया जेल, शिफ्ट कर दिया एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लेवल पर। फिर जब हमारी कार्रवाई शुरू हुई, हमारे लीगल असिस्टेंस जो देने वाले एडवोकेट्स थे हमारे, उन्होंने जब बेल के लिए एप्लीकेशन मूव किया तो उनको लगा साहब कि ये बेल ना करा लें कहीं, तो उन्होंने हमारे ऊपर 1 महीने के बाद NSA लगा दिया। उसके बाद जब हमारे केसेस में अदालतों में सुनवाई शुरू होने लगी तो इन लोगों को लगा कि कहीं बेल ना करा लें, तो उन्होंने फिर 1 केस बढ़ा दिया, 6 कर दिया। फिर इधर हमारी बेल होती थी, उधर वो केस बढ़ाते थे, 6 के बाद 7 किया, फिर 8 किया, फिर 9 केसेस कर दिए। और आपको ताज्जुब होगा कि जब NSA में हम हाईकोर्ट गए 2.5 महीने के बाद, हमने चैलेंज किया कि हमारे पर एनएसए गलत लगाया गया है, तो हमारी सुनवाई पहले तो हाई कोर्ट में शुरू नहीं हुई। इन सब लगा देने से हमारे जो रिलेटिव्स थे, हमारे जो फ्रेंड्स थे, वो सब डरने लगे हमारी फैमिली से मिलने के लिए। आपको मालूम होगा कि जब मकान टूट गया हमारा, तो हम लोग को सामान सब सड़क पे पड़ा रह गया, कुछ सामान चोरी हो गया, कुछ सामान उसमें दब गया। उस वक्त हमारी फैमिली को कोई किराए का मकान देने को तैयार नहीं हो रहा था। उसी इलाहाबाद शहर में जहाँ और जवान हुए और तमाम सोशल लाइन्स पर हमने काम किया लोगों के साथ, तो ये जो जाति जो थी ये तो तरीके से बयान की थी और ये पूरी तरह से हो रही थी साफ तौर से। आप गैर पूरी तरह हमारा ऐसी सुनवाई कानूनी जोड़ने लगी और उसमें कोर्ट ने जजमेंट रिजर्व कर दिया और रिजर्व करने के बाद 2015 साल में उसका जजमेंट नहीं दिया और उसका जजमेंट आज तक नहीं आया और ऐसे एक साल के बाद आर्गुमेंट खत्म हो गया। बात उसी को ऐसे खत्म हो गया आर्गुमेंट हमारे बड़े बड़ी कोर्ट से, इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट से, तो हमें बात करना चाहिए। लेकिन उसके बाद भी उन्होंने हमारे साथ अन्याय किया और अन्याय के कैंसर लगाए आपको कैंसर में हमें 3 दिन कोर्ट में बैठ नहीं दिया और चौथी कोर्ट में चौथी जज ने हमको बोल दिया और इसके एक जो कैंसर लगाया था उसी पर कैंसर लगाया, उसी पर आर्गुमेंट लगाया। ये अदालत इतना कैसे लगाएंगे कि मुझे पढ़ाने की कोशिश कर ही रहे हैं कि हमारे खिलाफ कोई बोले ना, हम जो कर रहे हैं वो सरकार है, जो भी होगा उसको होने दीजिए, जो बोलेगा उसका उसी जगह जेल है। ये तो उनकी पॉलिसी बन चुकी है हमारे घर के मॉडर्निटी को लेकर और उसमें इतनी बाजी उन्होंने करी, घर की जांच करने के लिए घर के पेपर किसके नाम से संजय को डिमोलिश किया गया। हमारे मकान 11 बजे स्टाफ शुरू किया बुलडोज करने के लिए, रात में 11 बजे उन्होंने नोटिस हमारे घर चिपकाई, जबकि हमारी भाई और हमारी बेटी उनके पास खाने में मौजूद थी, उनको खाने में देना चाहिए था नोटिस जाकर, ये नोटिस उन्होंने दी जा रही लेकिन नहीं दी और रात में ये कुछ केस चोरी से लगा कर चले गए। मकान का पेपर हमारे भाई के नाम था, दस्ती हमारे भाई के नाम, नगर निगम हाउस सीधे सब भाई के नाम पेमेंट जमा होता था उसमें, तो उनको अगर मकान बनवाना तो कम से कम नोटिस तो सही बनाना चाहिए था भाई के नाम से, क्यों हमारे नाम से बनाया नोटिस उन्होंने और नोटिस दी भी नहीं और नोटिस देने के टाइम भी नहीं दिया गया और बाद में कोर्ट के बदले कह रहे हैं, झूठ बोल रहे हैं कोर्ट में कि हमने 15 दिन पहले नोटिस इशू किया था। आपने 15 दिन पहले नोटिस किस आप इशू किया था, जिसमें आप उत्तर प्रदेश गवर्नमेंट का कह रहा है कि मकान हमारा है कॉन्सेंट्रेट का इससे कॉन्ट्रेसी रची है, वो सेक्रेटरी बयान आ रहा है, ये है संदूक बयान आ रहा है और आपने 15 दिन पहले नोटिस इशू कर दी। ये साफ मालूम होता है झूठा केस है और हाईकोर्ट ने हम लोग प्लान को उड़ने के बाद और उसके बाद हाईकोर्ट ने भी मैदान को उड़ने के बाद सिर्फ इतना ही हुआ कि इलाहाबाद हाईकोर्ट में काउंटर इंजॉयनर होने के बाद मैटर हो गया। आज तक उसमें बहस नहीं हो पाई।
Just stop.
Who was a young boy or something like
इनका दोबारा शुरू कर दीजिए, ये इतना सही। तो just to say that the case regarding the house of course is still pending and they are living in rented accommodation. We are now going to move to hearing from others who will be talking more on issues and not necessarily narrating अपने केस के बारे में, पर जो उनके एक्सपीरियंसेस रहे हैं जेल में, चाहे वो लीगल एड हो, चाहे वो हेल्थ हो, चाहे वो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो, कस्टोडियल वायलेंस हो। या प्लीज स्टार्ट। इसके आनंद तेल तुमड़े हैं, डॉक्टर आनंद तेल तुमड़े।
So that thing is very, very common. There was another boy who was buried and he told me the story that they struggled in the jail that I think Alan he was Alan there and to celebrate Ambedkar Jayanti. On that issue some problem happened and they ordered police from outside and they got them beaten like anything. That he had to be brought on side, taken to Kalusa and that guy was there. So months together he was handling saying hey, and then I think he stands for it. So these kinds of things are very common. On the post-exam, the introduction happens meaning that these are actually connected to the head superintendent. You have to remove shirt and sit there and things like, So mine was first and with nothing, something like I told when the sector and I was sent out. So I was standing on the road. And I was hearing they were actually beating people to this leather like belt, with full strength. For nothing. This is introduction. I was wondering which one is such a thing. What business they has got beat people. But this is very, very common. And since this instrument actually do exist in the jail, that is, they are taking for granted that the people are to be beaten. Humiliation is a part of their life, and it doesn't happen. With us, it seems something like class of people, etc. People are very easily treated. But the commoner that I saw, they actually make them absolutely naked. They sit on this thing, then they will make them something like get up and say, all that, forget. So that kind of thing. Anything can happen if you are common visitor.
See, I don't know, discrimination of residents not at two levels, I would say.
That is Arun Ferreira.
At the lower level, it would be a jail staff, because the guard and all that, they are, so different because of their own, sometimes their own ability and very easily you can talk about the other being as someone who is easily interacted. So in that sense, Muslims or Dalits or Adivasi will be part of the routine that basis or discrimination. But another type of discrimination is more political type of discrimination that comes from higher up. So if like prisoners like us, or there will be Muslim militants, or there will be in other Muslim sections. That's more a political discrimination comes from higher. They will be that treated separately, easily sent to the underbelly, easily given hard conditions, things like that. So that even that face, both the same type of situation. So the human, the other discrimination which I talked about is quite common, that Muslims or Dalits or Adivasi, so basically minorities will be treated as the other in that sense.
There are many of these things. The first one is Pardi unit, and Pardi unit is better. There is some theft or something, some crime which is basically it's a personal crime. You go to the nearest party listening. So after the time there are so many cases on them that they get easily called as offenders and there are groups which are found even in relatively progressive Maharashtra jails. They are still very much discriminated against. They usually have separate, they eat separately, and of course they find very interesting. And the regulation is very interesting, but I understand that they didn't do that. They would be really infuriated.
See, I had that episode where I had gone to the as was transformed. After transforming, I had written two pages about my experience with them. And I don't know the superior was censoring and not allowing any of us to go, especially if they had a think of political thought or something in there. So I had a notice from the superintendent, we had a notice, Rajesh had a notice, Sudhu got a notice, and for writing a poem, for writing an essay, or things like that. So later, he came to know that when I took out the National Engineers Commission, in one of the aspects filed by the superintendent very clearly said that we were doing this because we had to send your letters to the police officers. So we had got an order from the DGP that all letters to be sent to the police officers, which is totally violation of the legal rules and even crime and law relationship or things like that. So, but that that is done never six of the census. Or I went for the ministers, commission said that this kind of census is wrong and they avoided the compensation.
Then we have to address on small things like reading or writing materials or books, etc. To the things like we have to line up in the court, take it to the court, challenge something like letters not being delivered in time or letters get scanned, get sent to the investigating authorities, which is absolutely illegal. Then there was about letters, there should be lots of hassles. So one of the letters that I wrote to my wife, I only used to write to my wife and my daughters are abroad, so my letter had not gone for something like 10 days or so. My wife, I asked the next time she came to jail, she said that she had not received, and I sent important papers to lawyer and a friend and my daughters. And the letter was nobody was talking about. I was following with the jailer and he was not saying anything. So that was weekend. And when I actually wrote a letter to the jail superintendent, and the next day he said, memo to me. Someone for the Marathi, whatever it means. That there was an objectionable thing with certain church laws and all that kind of thing. Even today, we have written some paper, saying that this is not allowed according to that. It is a national propaganda. It is everything is national propaganda. State security. State security is only law. And to do that, everybody actually face now.
The second one about getting really actually it's very, it depends upon the limits and fancies of the bar and the gate. So sometimes you will get, go to court, get some books back, or sometimes the lawyer comments get some books back. And with the bar at the gate, sees that, there is some photo of some red banner or there will be some provision writing that people only probably India Bharati, you tell that, this is something which we have official, it would be denied. Or if something was related to our case, which often you do get, literature which was after family to self-research and all that would be denied. So that would be totally, when we know what the meaning of what it is, whether it's even like one recently wrote an article very critical content when we are Marco Day. Our lawyer sent a copy of the Constitution of India. So it is called copy with commentaries. So it was quite bulky. So the Supreme Court did. The last person is too big to carry it. And the Supreme Court said that I cannot avoid to carry it to municipal prison. So we decided to take it. In fact, that's wrong. The Supreme Court can be given a better than if you do not allow the Constitution or popular Constitution. India is the violation that special rule is to civil of the wrong civil of it. So, usually after you have that, you will make it any great law. But this is the rigorous law of the situation.
Now, another issue is the medical thing. Medical. The hospitals were not equipped at all. The manual actually speaks of something else, but there was no doctor of that qualification. There were 3 doctors in Tarona jail which were Ayurvedic kind of degree. The jail mentioned that there should be an MD who is CN, thereafter there should be assistant doctors to him with the qualification of MBBS, nothing of that kind. Forget about doctors, there are no orderly, no nurse, no compounder, elevator, and anything, even the equipment is not there. The small equipment is not there, like even the blood pressure or temperature is there. If it comes out, we could not come for weeks together. So that was the situation. But the projection in the courts, and the authorities say that we have very well-equipped hospital with all the same. So so we had to expose that. And I think largely is times exposed because of our pursuit, they sent an MBBS doctor who was CMO. He was also no good, but anyway, that was kind of response from the state. And when we were, as a result, whatever the people they think they will not be appropriate treatment, they may not be paid attention to. Even if they happen in my case, I contracted COVID inside, and for 3 4 days I was in such a bad condition that I could not really write. But then I did not pay much attention. They were actually sending boys in, who work for hospital, and those are prisoners, and they would struggle to put inside, put the needle there, the needle in my bench. They would literally hustle. And that way, whatever medicine, etc., doctor might have advisement, they would do the saline. Fortunately, it worked, and for 4 5 days, I had to suffer. In that situation, even I was called, when I was taken to jail. Jailer was good, that at the time jailer had walked me to the office of superintendent. The superintendent did not feel like visiting my room. Okay. So I barely walked, and the fellow said that no, tomorrow midnight nala hai. Then he said that no, it is not COVID. I had just shouted that he was not a doctor or that kind. Nothing happened. There was no movement to send me outside because they were trying to suppress that anybody suffering with COVID inside the jail and trying to project that how we actually managing COVID pandemic. So this was the thing that rather now the presentation of it that we all was hands on it. So it is exactly the same thing. We was saying in time outside outside school. We would not have accepted. If there was shouting, I was inward. I was shouting at the doctor that he actually oxygen level had fallen below 75, which is very dangerous. And still, the doctors, I think, acted, but then they would like immediately the superintendent only 1 2 days. When already the court order had come for taking or out, only in response to that it acted. And as I said, he died.
I would really put that now the attitude towards menstruation, etc., at least in the days I was in they have more enlightened about these things. They have, maintained registers of your last period. They actually have the dates noted down. And they supply you with sanitary napkins, of course, the limited amount, like those who require more, of course, don't try for that. But the joke is that the disposal of the sanitary napkins is still a quick use. Everyone has had to undergo a pregnancy test. You get doctors and rules because people are animals, pregnancy test. No, the thing about pregnancy and childbirth and having certain issues. Once the day itself, actually the routines fall into place, and at least in these days which I have mentioned, they are quite good about this. So, pregnant woman takes a diet, and that may be one of the diet, similar to and the thing I used to be sad about was that most women there suffer from one kind or another of mental issues. And the pregnant girls are only those women who would be violent or out of control, or those whom, let's say, you could not get them to follow the routine of the jail. Only those women would be treated as psychiatric cases and sent to psychiatrists who visit jail. But the idea of counseling, of therapy, of these women to be rehabilitated, and it's a far more difficult the tax payment we have related to men. I think it's something which is really not taken seriously. Rehabilitation is something which is actually not taken seriously. Even the opportunities of education, I remember my old Jyoti, started English classes, they were so popular. Just simple arithmetic in English. Stomaji and Jyoti used to do that. And unfortunately, COVID came between to stop. But, this would possibly give women a way out. But really, I mean, then I really understand when whatever Saturdays is just busy working up and putting you in line and keeping you in shape and making sure that there is no between relationships. But it doesn't these type of purpose and ideas. And continue to share that with you about the tradition and the what do you do when you come to the
देवरिया जिले की स्ट्रेंथ थी 600 यूनिट्स की लिए थी और वहाँ 2250 बंदी रखी जा रही थी। किस तरह रह रहे होंगे, किस तरह खा रहे होंगे, आप सोचिए, बहुत तकलीफें मंजर था। और उत्तर प्रदेश गवर्नमेंट को या केंद्र सरकार गवर्नमेंट को या किसी भी राज्य की वो कभी नहीं से करी जा रही है जेल में बंदियों को खाना किस तरह दिया जा रहा है, किस तरह वो रह रहे हैं, वो एकदम सुबह का मामला सरकारी गवर्नमेंट को हर 3 महीने में विजिट करते थे। लेकिन किसी हिम्मत से नहीं होती थी कि उनको जाने के बाद जो जीवन का और विभिन्न कहना चलेगा तो उस तरह से उनको बोलने वाला नहीं हमारा क्या होगा चाहिए।
But after all of that, this is the situation of prison. I could talk about the problem of living, how lawyers, the inmates don't have any access to proper lawyers, proper legal court. And some way, COVID played a positive role in that sense, is that for family. So, before coming to Tamil there was a situation where in every family many poor and no contact their family, no contact lawyers, what happened in the case, no information. But after COVID, they started getting able to call the family, getting news about the cases and all that. That's why you realize that legal aid at other versus power can at least, help in giving information to the people. There is only the basic right. It should be there. There is not what is the next 4 days, what happened on the last day, what is the situation of the day application, what is the record of everything said against me, what is the situation of the high court, all the Supreme Court can matters. These things which are, there is no way that for prisoners able to access that. Now, at least the state district services authority has started work for the e-kiosks where you could access the district court data and all that. And they gave one kiosk to the prison. So the kiosk which was in the prison, remaining the prison supervision office. So prisoners were not allowed to use it, they had no online users. So prisoners had their own ways, if there would be a video conference, what was actually working on. You would try to get, the guard out there or the inmate out there, person that can state, the person that all this actually legally not prohibited in that sense. But that type of system which a person or inmate can get access to what's happening in the place, there is no system for that. The problem is really like last year in Tamil the district legal services authorities, they are more concerned about organizing central programs. So at the same level, all the central level matter, the Supreme Court level, the other content, they will implement the certain targets. So program will get, meeting will get the forward, consistent providing of lawyers to prisoners, something which is totally absent. So you get, I give an example. So a lawyer, the people probably come for, the first week of this month. They will take details of the case. The next month, another people lawyer. So there is no actual consistent follow. So one point that is important is the question of providing legal information. Second one is consistent what we want, cases only, I said, will not try to get these years what we need to do. Or try to get, some system where the inmate can go to this, counter, ask for a copy of his road exam, or ask for his name, or get a printout of his, high court bail petition or whatever, or bail pass, or things like that.
Initially, there was absolutely various to actually great organization, another area. Because of the telephonic block used to come after something like for an average 12 days, 14 days, which was supposed to be a week or so. And there was lot of drama about whether it is video call or whether it is simple call, things are changing and all that kind of idea that now it is a bit normalized and people are a bit comfortable with communication. At least, but in our times they really suffered for days together we were in dark. So it is be quite a anxious time that we used to have.
But then eventually when time passes, you just become a prisoner number, you just become a prisoner like anyone else, and you start to grow new identities of the prison, you start to inhabit what is going on in the prison. And for me it was interesting because these were the things I was reporting all my life. I was reporting about prisoners, I was reporting about people who were incarcerated under UAPA or Public Safety Act. Before going to jail, I was working on a story on UAPA only. And now I was not them. So I would say that I became the character of my own stories. Now I was living those characters in myself. I was feeling the pain and feeling the suffering that they were going through. I was feeling it myself. Since I was arrested, I saw my family only once. That was the day when I was booked under Public Safety Act on 15th March 2022. And that time I saw my parents once only because I did not want my parents to see me in handcuffs in police or behind the bar. So that's why I did not want them to visit me in the prison also. So I did not meet them for 1.5 years while I was in the prison. Because I didn't want them to see me in that glass and then having the bar, hiding bars. Really asked why I did that. So that was my decision to not see my family.
But it was definitely more difficult in the civil cell, in the Pasi yard, than it was in the back. Because really when you were left at 5:30 until 7:30 the next morning when you were under, you were just left with your set of the four walls. And that is very, very busy. That's why I wrote on my books actually. So that I use them. That was my way of making sense of things around me and keep maintaining some sanity. Being alive and knowing that the acts were stringent acts, I also made up my mind as to actually even imagine that I have come up very early. So I remember that roller coaster of hope and despair as my main way I used it for rejecting and so on. So I just avoided it. And one very important thing is that having faith of people on the outside. And I was lucky, I had my friends, I had my lawyers, I had my people in my organization, my trade unit, and I had good faith in them. And sometimes they can't do it point in my head, then my mind, trying to exercise my own mind, really so if you put that out of the way, which is really a big portion of the anxiety, then I can imagine if those who not have people on the outside or who not have people that they trusted on the outside, I mean, this must be an overwhelming anxiety. And the other thing is just what we do with your time and the anxiety of people outside. I think the most difficult thing for me would be to open the letters of my daughter. Because she was, my whole purpose with shifting from my place of work and the two was because I wanted to be with her, and I knew she was going to a different time, and I needed her to pay attention to her studies and all that. And so I wanted to give her a more secure family life as it were, while I learned and I suppose that I will do. But I don't want to do that. And then there was so way that she's always doing. So I would have these letters full of, anxiety and sadness on the anger, so many feelings and emotions. And I have never done that letter. Has been posted many days ago. It has lain in the paper at least a week before it is censored and sent. And if the other people don't mind, the letter will reply will be sent. So basically, there's going to be this long period by which the probably official problem is solved. So the entire frustration of communication, and this fear of opening that letter and finding this very unhappy, or what has been happening with her, how do I console her, how do I convey that I'm thinking about her, that was really important. Otherwise, I would say that, jail has a way, it has this clockwork of routine, the bell is ringing, I was trying to, get out, sit in the hotel, I was trying to breakfast, I was washing dishes, I was, trying to fill up the water, now, so you are kept busy in that sense. The next one. But then when I went to writer, then I became a freelancer, so I have so many applications to write that I was up to most of the night. Anyway, I have a good problem to see, but in that, when the staff would come on the ground, say, hey, Sudha, what will we go to sleep now? And that's really for us. So, yeah, so, those are the writing applications which will take for over days. I don't understand with very spectacular failure rate of 100%. So I was really doing that, yeah. But that was really good. It was actually difficult to observe other people in jail, mentally ill people who provoke others and get beaten, or somebody who is very sick. I think I witnessed at least 2 deaths and several very serious cases. I mean, people being very sick. I remember once a conversation maybe, rolling around in agony and all shouting for the constable to come. And then, fortunately, because I could speak in a little bit of English and give some medical stay and all that, she turned out to be having a very serious ailment, finally she was hospitalized and had to be operated and all that. But the first thing is that they could not have done that. And then, okay, let's do it this way, let's do that something. Only when you feel that, something really might happen, that they're going to make a so almost, every second night there will be something happening, somebody say, maybe 5 days before the bad news. It's a way of tears, it's going to sir.
Thank you. इसको बंद कर दीजिए. लाइट यहाँ ऑन कर दीजिए. I think Sai wants to add something, and I think we're totally out of time, but I was very keen that we should hear them. Just before Sai begins to speak, when I was hearing these people, you have this whole Nalsa under the Supreme Court and then under different high courts. I really think they should hear these people if they are interested in acting. Arun is giving very specific suggestions. We know that the present Chief Justice of India is deeply invested in using technology. The suggestions made by Arun are all related to technology. And these are things that if the court wants, they can be done. They can direct the state to put the money, but whether they want it done or not is the question that we are facing. And one thing that came up in the conversation with Sai yesterday, whether it's Sai or many others who are unjustly arrested, prosecuted, and then acquitted, we don't have a law of malicious prosecution in this country. The matter has been raised before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined. The Law Commission of India has recommended it. So what becomes the law and what does not become the law is also an act of political wisdom. And I won't speak anymore, so I will share some of his thoughts. But the new laws should be now read in the context of the experiences that have been shared here. And let us revisit those laws and see whether there is any decolonization taking place or the colonial rule is getting more deeply entrenched. Sai, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vrinda, for bringing so many voices of the people who suffer like me in the prison. In fact, all these people should have been here. I don't understand why the bail conditions are to be such kind of thing where you lose your fundamental rights. If a person is out on bail and still fundamental rights, all fundamental rights to be suspended for them, it's a very strange thing for me even today. After the outbreak of this, people came out on bail, but still they can't move out from one particular place. And they can't go even to their own hometowns. And they can't talk to others. But naturally, a person who is in bail should be here to share their experiences with others. It's a very tragic thing, like we can't come out and talk to people across anywhere. But it's a wonderful job that we could hear. All of these people I knew before, maybe that is retired now. Again, a new friend, if I say this. But I can't talk to them, I can't visit them. I would like to share a few things. I don't take much time now because already, I think, closing time. Really fundamental questions that came out from Anand, Sudha, Arun, and others. See, all of us were in Maharashtra prisons so called Naxal prisons. And there were about 70 Adivasis in Nagpur Central Prison. And all of them are called Naxal prisons. And they have made category called Naxal offense. There is no such category of Naxal prison or Naxal offense in the knowledge of law, as far as I know. In fact, there was a judgment by the Mumbai High Court giving directions to the top prison officers that you cannot create a new category and discriminate prisoners based on that category. So, you see, it's a double oppression. Once a person is, branded as a Naxal offender, that means that you can't meet other prisoners. That will be implemented. And they give you a separate uniform to recognize you immediately that he is an Naxal and he or she is an Naxal. And then you have to sign everywhere. Every time you go to Maka or visit something, you have to sign 4 registers, separate registers. All other prisoners will sign only on one register. There is a separate register for every act that you do or ask or send a letter or anything. And that is because these registers, they go to different police officers outside. And if you are an Naxal prisoner, you are branded as an Naxal prisoner, you can't be taken to the prison hospital. A separate order has to be passed to take you out of your barrack by the superintendent prison hospital, forget about the hospital outside. So, I mean, you are discriminated on every ground, but there is no such category. And we know all about Via Krishna's judgment that you cannot create categories of prisoners and then treat according to the category. All prisoners should get the same rights, same facilities in the prison. And there are many other judgments, lawyers here and all. But this, none of us challenge it in the court because how many times we go to the court, you can see that if you want a notebook, you have to go to the court. If you want pens, you have to go to the court and get. And if you want books, you have to go out and get it. How many things the lawyers can do it? How many tests can we do it? You know, like, if you don't want to the court, they will not allow you. And even after going to the court, getting the order, they will not implement that. Unless the court once again calls them and tells, you know, like, it's an offense. And even after that also, after 2-3 months, they will stop you with this provision. Then you go to court once again. This kind of thing. And another important thing that I would British caste system. And let's talk about caste system. But I would like to say a few words. You know, like, the moment you enter the prison, the first thing that you ask is, what's your caste? And they will write it in their register. And then there is no purpose. You are not providing a reservation or any facility based on your caste. Caste, they want to know because where you will be placed, in which barrack, and what kind of work you will be given, or how you will be treated. You want the caste. And then there is a prison wages and prison work for community people and also for unorganized, some of their employees. So they call these prisoners based on their caste. You know, if you say that I am Nani, you will be given barber's work. If you say this caste, you will be given this, sewage work, washing toilets, scavenging, you will get certain tasks only. And if the prison authorities will send, a Dalit person to the kitchen, all the upper class people in the prison will protest that they will not eat. So, I mean, so rampant that the caste system is, you know. And then these people who have to clean these toilets and the drainage system and all that, they have to do with their bare hands. They don't provide any gloves, no instruments, nothing. And you know, the food has to be carried to the barracks.
Can I say something, please, right now?
Yes, yes.
Because you mentioned something.
The caste system, you know, everywhere it works, the one who rules there, and it sits in the center of the prison. And let me tell you, this is the prison manual of Maharashtra. And the prison manual of Maharashtra is part of the Prisons Act 1894 amended Act. And it is the standard book under the Constitution. The caste system is recognized and the work is allotted according to the caste. And then another thing that I would like to tell you is which I really suffered and even cried, is torture. Torture, you can see how you can't tolerate the kind of torture that you see. In front of your eyes it happens. You are helpless, you can't stop it. You have to see that kind of torture. The moment a prisoner enters in any of Maharashtra prisons, at the main gate itself, after being asked recast, he will be taken aside and will be beaten. Excepting a few people. If there is a Naxal prisoner, as they call it, they will not meet. And if there is a white collar offense, they will not. But all others are prisoner. They will not ask you anything except caste, and then they will take you aside. There is a designated place between the two main gates before you enter inside there. They will beat you like anything, some bones to have it break, some injuries of break. Why? I did not understand for the last few months, why should they beat people like this? And most of these people, majority of people are petty offenses. Come out on petty offenses. That is to terrorize the people, to see and discipline the people. One officer said that tomorrow they will create problems. The first day they should taste what the jail is. And this is a common practice. And after that, there are quarrels among the prisoners to get the place. The space is not there. In the sense, like it's a war project. The Nagpur Central Prison is meant for 1,500 people now. And the British made it was for 1,800. 800 people. Now it's for 1,500 people. But there are 3,200 people. And it's already like, and then they quarrel for the space. There is no space to sit, and there is no space to sleep. There is no water. For everything they have to fight like dogs. And using this fighting, they punish them. The two groups of what? Two people, and then they punish. Punishment at every level is the only way to discipline the prisoners. Sorry. I am not going into this more details, except that one thing that I want to say finally is that there are in all hospitals medical treatment is this. They appoint doctors who are diploma holders in Ayurvedic, but they practice allopathy. And there is an order by Maharashtra government to allow this. And that's why the highest number of people who die in prisons is from Maharashtra. Anybody can die at any time. That is the kind of situation. There are many other things, there is no time now more to close it.
Tell us about the under cell.
It will take time.
No, sir, take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, as much time as you want. I mean, within limits. No. We have a time limit. So
Please go ahead with the answer.
Briefly. Don't act on behalf of organizers.
Sorry, I think maybe we can discuss about it.
Go ahead.
I think ये ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि जवाहर भवन में जो लोग हैं उनके काम करने का भी एक वक्त है. हमें जो बात करनी है हम बाहर कर सकते हैं. कृपया इसका ध्यान रखें, प्लीज.
Please go.
It's like a mysterious list, I would say. Unless it is constructed in such a way that this at one point a God will stand and observe all the cells. Unless it is not one cell. It is 24 cells in a kind of under shape, and then one single God can stand in one place and can observe. But none of the prisoners can see the God or any other prisoner within the understand. That is the kind of understanding that you have. And you can't get fresh air because it's close to RO. But you will get the rain on your head. And the sun. And it's why, unless you go and stay there, you cannot understand this. It's a mysterious place. The full sun is there, but you don't get fresh air because air will not come. Because the top, high walls are there, and then it's left open. The sun comes, rain comes, but no air comes. And there are many things that one can say about it, but one thing, last one I can say that it's very difficult to stay and understand with the sanity maintained of a person for more than 1 year. But I stayed there more than 8 years. Now you can judge whether I am still staying or not. But there are people and there are rules also. One, prison guards cannot keep people in understand for a prolonged period of time. But I was the only person in the history of the understand of Nagpur prison to be kept for such a long time. There is no other person in history. It's very, very difficult to maintain your sanity because people who spend more than 1 year, they turn violent because you always have to see the walls, nothing else, and the rods. Okay, I conclude perhaps the organization
should have questions. We must. Between the two.
I
I'm not the
need
only
to Bhawan and Karina to say the concluding things again as I am really glad that these voices have come out here and the incarceration I think we will continue to see. It's not going to end us very soon. But it's very important to make it kind of an agenda for all of us to raise this issue consistently and see, at least there should be a law in this country to recognize political prisoners as political prisoners. I'm not talking about all the activists should be only considered as political prisoners. But for any political reason or social reason, if they are incarcerated, they should not be incarcerated. Nobody should be incarcerated. If they happen to be incarcerated, there should be a provision for recognizing these people as political prisoners so that there is a kind of space where political prisoners are those who are prospective political prisoners have a kind of idea that what's going to happen to them. Thank you very much.
तो ये था पूरा डिस्कशन वृंदा ग्रोवर और GN साई बाबा का नीलाभ मेमोरियल लेक्चर।
No.